Imagine a moment in history where the future of an entire continent hangs in the balance. A single battlefield where two worlds collide, not in the grand cities of Rome or Paris, but on a field in medieval Serbia. The year is 1389. The place is Kosovo Polje, the field of blackbirds. This wasn't just another medieval skirmish, this was a collision of empires, a clash of faiths, and a moment that would echo for centuries. The Ottoman Empire, a juggernaut of military power, was on the march. They had swept through Anatolia and the Balkans, and their eyes were now set on the heart of Europe. If they could break through here, the path to Hungary, Austria, and beyond would be wide open. But standing in their way was a kingdom determined to hold the line. Serbia. Let's set the stage. On one side, you have the Ottoman army, a massive force estimated at anywhere from 40 to 60,000 strong. This wasn't just a rabble, it was a professional, disciplined war machine. At its core were the Janissaries, an elite infantry unit feared across the known world. They were supported by waves of infantry, archers, and swift cavalry. Leading this formidable host was Sultan Murad I, a seasoned and ambitious ruler flanked by his two sons, Bayezid, known as the Thunderbolt, and Yaqub. Their strategy was simple: use their overwhelming numbers to envelop and crush the smaller Christian army. On the other side stood the Serbian-led coalition. Their numbers were far smaller, probably around 20,000 men, but what they lacked in size, they made up for in spirit and steel. This was an army built around a core of heavily armored knights, the medieval equivalent of tanks. These were the nobles of Serbia, fighting for their land, their faith, and their king. They were led by Prince Lazar Hrebeljanović, a respected and pious ruler who had managed to rally not just his own Serbian forces, but also contingents from Bosnia, Albania, and other Christian allies. Their plan was a high-risk, high-reward gamble, a decisive, powerful charge aimed directly at the heart of the Ottoman formation, hoping to shatter their command and morale in one single glorious push. The sun rises on June 28, 1389. The air is thick with tension. Two vast armies face each other across the plain. On one side, the endless ranks of the Ottomans. On the other, the gleaming armor of the Serbian knights. The horns sound, the banners rise, and the ground begins to tremble. The battle for Europe has begun. The initial moments of the battle were a stunning success for the Serbs. Prince Lazar unleashed his heavy cavalry. Imagine the sight. Thousands of armored knights, lances lowered, charging across the field like a tidal wave of steel. They slammed into the Ottoman center with devastating force. Contemporary accounts, though often biased, speak of the Serbian knights cutting through the Ottoman lines. The initial Ottoman ranks buckled and bent under the sheer impact of the charge. It seemed for a moment that the Serbian gamble might pay off. The center was pushing forward, gaining ground and threatening to split the massive Ottoman army in two. But the Ottomans were veterans of countless campaigns. They were flexible, and they had depth. While their center was under immense pressure, Sultan Murad and his commanders didn't panic. They initiated their own plan. The vast Ottoman wings, composed of light cavalry and infantry, began to move. They didn't meet the Serbian charge head-on. Instead, they began to sweep around the flanks of the Serbian army. This is where the tide of the battle started to turn. The organized, cohesive Serbian charge began to lose its momentum as it was drawn into fights on its sides. The battle dissolved from a single decisive push into a chaotic series of smaller, brutal encounters all across the field. The neat lines of battle disappeared, replaced by a desperate, swirling melee. It was no longer about grand strategy. It was about individual courage, sword against scimitar, man against man. Sources from the nearby Republic of Dubrovnik and later Western chronicles paint a picture of hours of relentless, bloody combat with no clear advantage for either side. The field became a maelstrom of chaos and death. And it was in this chaos that one of history's most dramatic and debated events occurred. At some point during the fierce fighting, the Ottoman Sultan, Murad I, was killed. This was an almost unheard-of event. A reigning monarch, slain in the middle of his own army at the height of battle. How did it happen? The exact details are lost to history, shrouded in myth and legend. The most enduring version, central to Serbian national epic poetry, tells the story of a knight named Miloš Obilić. According to the legend, Obilić pretended to be a deserter. He gained access to the Sultan's tent, supposedly to kneel and pledge allegiance. But as he knelt, he drew a hidden dagger and plunged it into the Sultan, assassinating the leader of the Ottoman Empire in a single, audacious act of defiance before being cut down by the Sultan's guards. While historians debate the reality of this tale, the fact remains: Sultan Murad was dead. The death of a commander can shatter an army's morale. It could have been the moment the Ottomans broke and fled. But it wasn't. Command passed instantly to Murad's son Bayezid, and his first act as the new sultan was as ruthless as it was decisive. Fearing a succession crisis or a challenge from his own brother, Bayezid had Yaqub, who was unaware of their father's death, summoned and executed on the spot. With his power brutally secured, Bayezid, the Thunderbolt, took firm control of the Ottoman army. He rallied his troops and redoubled the assault. The battle raged on, but the Christian forces were now exhausted, outnumbered, and surrounded. Their leadership was also about to be broken. Prince Lazar, fighting at the head of his men, was eventually captured by the resurgent Ottoman forces. According to tradition, he was brought before the new sultan, Bayezid, and executed, along with the other captured Serbian nobles. The leader of the resistance was gone. As the sun set on the field of blackbirds, it revealed a scene of utter devastation. Both armies were shattered. The Serbian army had been practically annihilated. They had lost their prince and the vast majority of their nobility. The entire political and military leadership of the kingdom was wiped out in a single day. The flower of Serbian chivalry lay dead on the field. The Ottomans had also paid a terrible price. They had lost their sultan and thousands upon thousands of their best soldiers. Their losses were so heavy that Bayezid was forced to halt his campaign and return east to consolidate his rule and rebuild his army. He couldn't press his advantage and march further into Europe. The advance was stopped, at least for now. So, who won the Battle of Kosovo? It's a question historians still debate. Militarily, it was a tactical stalemate or perhaps a Pyrrhic Ottoman victory. Both sides were too broken to continue the fight, but the immediate aftermath tells a fascinating story. News of the battle spread across Europe, but the information was fragmented. The first reports focused on two key facts: a great battle had been fought, and the Ottoman Sultan was dead. For a continent living in fear of the Ottoman advance, this was seen as a monumental Christian victory. Church bells rang out in celebration across Europe, famously including those at the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. They weren't just celebrating a battle, they were celebrating what they saw as a successful defense of Christendom. The Battle of Kosovo was perceived as the moment Europe stood its ground and held the line. In the long run, however, the consequences were dire for Serbia. With its leadership gone and its army destroyed, Serbia was too weak to resist continued Ottoman pressure. It didn't fall immediately, but within the next 70 years it was fully absorbed into the Ottoman Empire, where it would remain for centuries. Yet, the Battle of Kosovo became something far more than just a historical event. It became the foundational myth of the Serbian nation. It was a story of heroic sacrifice, of choosing heavenly kingdom over earthly kingdom, of defiance against impossible odds. Prince Lazar became a saint. Miloš Obilić became a symbol of courage and patriotism. The battle wasn't remembered as a defeat, but as a moral victory and a defining moment of national identity. Kosovo was the line in the sand. It was the point where an empire was halted, where a continent resisted, and where a nation's soul was forged in blood and steel. It shows us that sometimes the legacy of a battle isn't about who won or lost on the day, but about the story it creates and the inspiration it provides for generations to come. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story of history as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into the past, and let me know in the comments what historical event you'd like to explore next. See you in the next one.